12 separate Paralympic flames are on their journey across France and will unite to light up Paris in 2 days.
The flame arrived in the country on Sunday, carried by British athletes through the Channel Tunnel, and was passed on to French athletes at the midway point. The torch was lit in Stoke Mandeville in England, the birthplace of the Paralympic movement. Well, Tanni Grey-Thompson is one of Britain's greatest Paralympic athletes, the winner of 11 golds, 4 silvers and a bronze. I think I've got that right. And now these days appear in the UK's House of Lords. You're a living legend. Welcome. Lovely to see you. These days you're a commentator. Do you miss it? Do you think, I wish I was still there on the track?
For about 3 seconds when the athletes come out, and then I very quickly remember that training 15 times a week, 50 weeks a year is quite hard. I mean, competing's great. The training is a bit dull and boring, so I'm very privileged to sit on the finish line and talk about my sport now.
I mean, that's what you do. I mean, how have the Games evolved over these years since you first started competing? We now think of them as mainstream, part of the furniture, but I'm guessing it wasn't always so.
No, it wasn't. So my first Games was Seoul in '88, where there was very little coverage in the UK. And with each cycle, they've grown and developed, and now they sit very much alongside the Olympics. And I think what's very exciting about Paris was that we had Paralympians as part of the final relay for the lighting of the torch. And Paris has really laid down a mark that they want, to really, push the Games to the highest bar they possibly can.
How does an Olympic host city like Paris transform itself in the space of a few weeks into a Paralympic city?
Well, I think what's happened with the last few cycles is that, they're looking at both Games, years ahead. I think, the Beijing Games in 2008, they were planning access way before the start of the Olympics. London learnt from that, and each Games has done that as well. So what you want is to have as little transition between Games as possible. And Paris is an old city, access is not particularly easy. But, the legacy of the Games, which we all talk about now, goes beyond a couple of weeks after the Games. Paris can keep changing itself and looking forward for years and years after the Games, like other cities have done.
You've been a doughty campaigner for disabled people. I wonder, has the world stage for the Paralympics improved life for disabled people, or are the obstacles still there, pretty much unchanged after all of these years, and when the light goes out on the Paralympics?
Yeah, there still are a lot of challenges, and the International Paralympic Committee is very keen that they use the power of the Games to nudge and change opinions around disability. And there was a big campaign after Tokyo, which was called We the 15. 15% of the world's population has some form of disability. So the Paralympics can't do it all. But, all the prime ministers and the presidents from all the countries around the world who'll be there for the Games, if they're inspired by it, we need them to go back to their own countries and keep, changing how disabled people are treated.
What should we look out for in Paris? Who are the big names that we should keep an eye on?
Oh, there are so many. From a British point of view, it's Sarah Story, David Weir. China is going to be pretty much impossible to beat. They've topped the medal table since Athens, but France and the USA are coming through very strongly. So I think these will be the most competitive Games yet, and there'll just be brilliant sport every single day.
This will be the most amazing platform for the Paralympics. What should the legacy of Paris be?
Well, for so much of the time, we talk about the legacy as an increase in participation, and there is a spike. And then when young people realise it's quite hard to be an Olympian or a Paralympian, they go off and do other things. Obviously, some stick through that. But for me, the legacy is greater than that. It is about accessibility in the city. It's about changing attitudes towards disabled people. It's about thinking how you can use the Games to put those cities on the world map. So it's not just about Games time or the couple of weeks after. Even now, London still is looking at how it uses the venues from 2012, thinking about how he puts sports events on. Nelson Mandela said sport has the power to change the world, and it absolutely does. But it doesn't happen without a huge amount of people, and a lot of time and effort, and some money.
Tanny, lovely to talk to you. Enjoy the Games, and thanks so much for coming on the programme. Lady Tanni Grey-Thompson.